Welcome everybody. Today we're going to start our last topic of this chapter. This is writing equations in function form. So first of all, we're going to start with what we already know. Well, we know how to do one and two step equations. We've done those before. Same with multi-step equations and solving for a variable. So if I had 2x equals 10, I know that I divide by 2 to get x by itself, and x equals 5. So I know how to solve for a variable. Now we're going to put all of this together into what we're about to start. So the first problem says write the equation in function form. Now what function form means is it's just a fancy way to say solve for y. So what we're going to do is when we solve for a variable, we want to get it all by itself. So we want to get y all by itself. So we need to move this 6x over to the other side. Now how we do that is because this is a positive 6x, we're going to subtract 6x from both sides. So those cancel. We're left with y equals. Now I usually like to put the x first, but we don't need to. So I'm going to put a negative 6x plus 4. Now I put plus 4 because the 4 is positive, and I could not combine negative 6x and 4 because one has the x and one doesn't. So when we say solve for y, we're trying to get y by itself, which is what we did. So this is the answer to our problem. Y equals negative 6x plus 4. Okay, now it says, again, solve for y. I'm going to circle our y because that's what I know I want to get by itself. So the first thing we need to move is this 18, the things that are not touching the y. Now this 18 has nothing in front of it, so we know it's a positive 18, and we can subtract it to move it to the other side. So we get negative 2y on this side equals 4x minus 18. I can't combine them because 18 doesn't have an x on it. Now the y is still not by itself. It still has a negative 2 touching it. When it touches it, it means multiply. So the opposite of that is to divide. So I'm going to divide by negative 2. Now what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. I'm going to divide by negative 2, but I'm going to divide everything on this side by negative 2. So we get y equals 4 divided by negative 2 will be negative 2. The x comes with it. Negative 18 divided by negative 2 gives me a positive 9. So our y is by itself, so our answer is y equals negative 2x plus 9. Here I'm moving the 4x over to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 4x. So this negative sign stays with the y, so it's negative y equals. Now I like to put the x in front. It's going to make your life easier if you put the x in front later down the road. So we get negative 4x plus 10. Plus 10 because the 10 is positive. Now the y is not by itself. It still has this negative. We know that if something or a letter is by itself, we can put a 1 in front. So I'm going to divide by negative 1. And we divide everything by negative 1. So we get y equals a positive 4x. 10 divided by negative 1 gives me a negative 10. So y equals 4x minus 10. Alright, now, again, we're going to move the x over to the other side. we're trying to get y all by itself. So I'm going to subtract 2x. So we get 2y equals a negative 2x plus 8. Divide by 2, everything by 2. We're going to get y equals a negative 1x plus 4. Now, this problem has multiple things on the side of the y. I know that I'm still trying to get y by itself, so what I need to do is get rid of everything else. So the first thing I'm going to move over is this negative 4x. And I'm going to add 4x to move it. So those will cancel out. We get y minus 9 equals 4x plus 0. We can't combine 4x and 0. Now we have to move the negative 9 over. So I'm going to add 9. Now because the 0 and the 9 both don't have variables on them, I can combine those. So we get y equals 4x. 0 plus 9 gives me 9. So y equals 4x plus 9. Here I'm going to move my 3x over first. Still trying to get y by itself, so I'm going to add 3x to both sides. So we get y minus 11 equals 3x plus 0. Add 11. And y equals 3x plus 11. Trying to get y by itself, so I'm going to move the 6x over by subtracting it. We get negative 3y equals negative 6x plus 12. Divide by negative 3. Y equals a positive 2x minus 4. Last problem, we're still trying to get y by itself. So I'm going to move the 8x over to the other side. I'm going to subtract 8x from both sides. So we get 4y equals a negative 8x plus 16. Divide by 4. Y equals negative 8 divided by 4 gives us a negative 2x. And 16 divided by 4 gives us 4. So y equals negative 2x plus 4.